Hi there. Come on in. It's time for Old Time Radio. I'm your host, Jerry Sharp, inviting you to pull up a chair and listen with me to some old-time radio shows. I've got the old majestic radio all warmed up. We're going to reach out into that ether and listen to some comedy, adventure, and drama on old-time radio. And on today's show, we're going to hear Episode 3 of Jack Armstrong, the All-American Boy. We'll also hear Gene Autry's Melody Ranch program. And we're going to spend some time talking about radio remotes. Jack Armstrong, the All-American Boy, has not been revised and modernized for television. The exploits that you've been listening to and the philosophy that has been portrayed back in the 1940s are the philosophy and exploits of the day. He was, at that time, one of the most popular of all radio heroes. In those days, atomic energy was part of a dream of a utopian future envisioned by many writers, not a nightmare reality for headline composers. Everything seemed better back then. Ideals were nobler, friendship truer, courage surer. And those Hudson High teachers, they had to be good, if for no other reason than to live up to the fame of the football team captained by Jack Armstrong. That is, when he wasn't off to the South Seas or the African jungles. It was one of the school's cheerleaders who started off a steam engine for the team's captain that gave the show its classic opening.
Jack Armstrong!
Jack Armstrong!
Jack Armstrong, the All-American Boy.
Wave the flag for Hudson High, boys. Show them how we stand. Ever shall our team be champions, known throughout the land.
Wheaties, Breakfast of Champions, bring you the thrilling adventures of Jack Armstrong, the All-American Boy. Say, did you ever look at a list of foods recommended for the training diet of champion athletes? Well, I can tell you one thing. Most of those training diets your favorite athletes follow are pretty sure to include that nourishing basic cereal grain of ours, whole wheat. Wheaties are made of whole wheat, you know. Yes, those tasty Wheaties flakes are real 100% whole wheat, brimming with the kind of nourishment an athlete can use every morning. Now, I'm telling you this because I've just discovered a mighty surprising fact. Listen, do you know that Wheaties give you lots more valuable bodybuilding nourishment than you may get from other foods made of whole wheat? It's true. Other so-called whole wheat foods may give you only a part of the good nourishment you get from Wheaties. Yes, Wheaties are extra nourishing. Be sure and remember that. Wheaties are extra nourishing. Those toasted flakes with the champion flavor give you every bit of the important vitamins and minerals found in the original whole wheat grain from which Wheaties are made. Now, I'll bet you're asking how this extra nourishment in Wheaties fits into your own personal training diet. Well, here are the facts, straight from headquarters. Wheaties give you all of whole wheat's essential vitamin B1 for good appetite. Wheaties give you all of whole wheat's vitamin G to help you grow, and all of wheat's phosphorus and calcium for sound bones and teeth, and iron for good red blood. Then, you'll want to remember this. Wheaties are a regular gold mine of that important thing called food energy. It's this important food energy that helps an athlete keep on the go without a letdown. Now, when you know these facts, Isn't it easy to see why Wheaties are recommended for an athlete's training diet and for your own personal training diet every morning? I'm telling you, you'd better string along with the hundreds of champion athletes who eat Wheaties and like them. Get yourself an orange and blue package of Wheaties right away. And now, Jack Armstrong, the All-American Boy. The two-masted schooner Spindrift is at anchor in San Francisco Bay on the eve of its dangerous voyage to the Philippine Islands and the Sulu Sea. It is going there in search of a yacht which sank on a hidden reef with its precious cargo of uranium. Already the Spindrift is a marked vessel. For yesterday, she was visited by a member of a reckless gang which is determined to locate and steal this rare uranium. Uncle Jim is on his way back from town, where he has received something of vital importance. Jack and Billy, still excited over their strange encounter with the schooner's visitor, are waiting impatiently on the dock for Betty while their skiff bobs up and down at the pier. Listen.
Gee, Billy, Betty's taking a long time to get here from the airport.
Now, I'll say, Jack, maybe she's making the most of one last night ashore in a nice warm house.
She'll be crowded on the Spindrift, all right, cooped up in that little cabin of hers.
Well, Jack, by the time Uncle Jim and you and I get our stuff stowed away in the main cabin, there won't be much room for us either.
Well, there'll be enough. And there's lots of room on deck to stretch our legs.
Yeah, and lots of storage space in the hold. I didn't see how Uncle Jim could possibly take his brand new autogyro along until I saw what a big hold the boat has.
We're going to need every bit of that storage space, Billy. It's not such a long hop to Hawaii, but it's a mighty long stretch from there to the Sulu Sea.
Yeah, and we'll have to have room for that diving equipment we're going to pick up in Manila. No use finding the sunken yacht if we can't get down to her and recover that uranium.
It looks as though we'll need the protection of the U.S. Navy to get that precious stuff back home, Billy.
Jumpin' Jiminy, yes, Jack. Why, here we haven't even started on the trip yet, and first Blackbeard shows up at Hudson.
And then this strange foreigner with the smooth tongue and the quick pistol shows up on the Spindrift.
What do you suppose he was up to in the first place, Jack?
I don't know. He certainly didn't expect us to drop in on him. And yet I've checked the boat from stem to stern, and I can't figure out what he was doing when we arrived.
Well, you can bet your boots we're gonna see some more of him before we shove off. Say, here comes Betty now. Bet you that taxi driver gives her a real scare.
Yeah.
Hi, Betty.
Hi, Betty.
Oh, hello. Oh, I thought we were going to drive right off the pier and into the bay.
Someday his brakes won't hold, and he will. I'll pay the driver.
Oh, thanks, Jack.
Give me your bag, Betty. I'll put it in the skiff.
Oh, here, thanks.
Okay.
Now, tell me what happened yesterday. Uncle Jim said this morning that you'd had a bit of excitement, but he rushed away before I could learn what happened.
Get in the skiff first, Betty, and we'll tell you as we row out. You and Billy sit in the stern seat.
Okay.
Here, Betty, take it easy. Take my hand. All right. There you go.
Uncle Jim looked worried, and he wouldn't say much, so I knew something important had happened.
Well, you remember that Billy and I went aboard to see who was visiting the Spindrift and what he was doing.
Yeah?
Well, we made some noise, and he came on deck before we could find out what he was up to.
Oh, Jack, did he act rough?
Not then. He had some crazy story about wanting to buy the boat.
But, Betty, he did the strangest thing. He looked at Jack's hands as though he wanted to bite them off. My hands were in my pockets, and he pulls a jiu-jitsu on me. Gosh, but he was quick, and gets my hands out and looks at them.
Oh, Billy, whatever would he want to do that for?
Oh, wait a second. Then Uncle Jim comes aboard, and he looks at Uncle Jim's hands the same way.
We finally figured he was looking for a certain ring.
A ring, Jack? Why should he...
Uncle Jim had it figured out. Remember that token that the dying sailor said he was sending from Professor Loring?
Oh, yes, of course. But Uncle Jim never got it.
No, not yet. But Uncle Jim figured that this gang knew of that token and were awfully anxious to get hold of it. It must have some terribly important meaning.
But how did Uncle Jim know it was a ring, Jack?
He didn't know. But this strange visitor was obviously looking for a ring. So Uncle Jim figured the token must be a ring of some kind.
Oh, but what happened then? Oh, Jack, watch out. There's a big motorboat coming this way.
She'll miss us. But watch out for a wash. It'll rock us a bit.
Oh, that was fun. But what happened then?
Listen, this is good. Uncle Jim pulled out a slip for registered mail for a Philippine package at the post office. And quick as a flash, the fella pulled a gun on us, took took the slip, cut loose our skiff so we couldn't follow him, and rowed back to shore just as fast as he could.
Oh, then he got the package.
Not much he didn't. Uncle Jim was too smart for it. You see, Uncle Jim wanted to find out for sure if this fellow was really part of the gang. So that registered slip was a fake. It was just an old receipt.
Oh, that's too funny.
But it's serious, too, Betty. It shows what we're up against. I never half realized how important that uranium must be.
It's got to be important, Betty. Well, it may mean solving the secret of splitting the atom and capturing that tremendous energy locked up in the atom.
It must be important if someone's going to all this trouble to find out the location of Professor Loring's sunken yacht.
And believe me, Betty, they're not sending out a bunch of thugs to get that information. This chap was educated and a smooth customer, and dangerous.
Are you telling me? The way he pulled that jujitsu was certainly something to write home about.
Well, that's what happened, Betty. We thought we'd have our hands full keeping that scrap of chart from him. But now it looks as though we'll have a very special ring to hide, too.
And that is, Jack, if that package comes before we leave.
It'll come, Billy. Hey, look, we're almost on the Spindrift.
Oh, Jack, she's a wonderful-looking boat. She looks like a great white bird all ready to take off.
She is a beauty, isn't she? Look at that clean, sharp bow. I'll bet she can cut through the waves.
A Spindrift, that is a good name. Look out or you'll bump into her.
Here, I'll make fast. Billy, you and Betty climb aboard first.
Okay, here you go, Betty. Take my hand now.
Yep, over. Okay.
Oh, there is lots of room on deck. But, Jack, I never saw so much rope in my life.
Not rope, Betty, but line. Remember, most ropes on a ship are called either lines or sheets.
Sheets?
Yeah, the sheets are the ropes that pull in the sails.
Well, I'll learn. Give me time. Oh, look, there's Uncle Jim on the dock. Shall we go back in and get him?
No, he has his own skiff. He's coming out. I wonder what he found out in town, Billy.
Oh, we'll know soon enough. While he's rowing out, let's take Betty below and show her the ship. Here, Betty, we'll show you the main cabin first.
Well, there's lots of room.
Lots of room for a weekend cruise, Betty. But when you figure we've got to have enough supplies on board for several months, the cabin sort of shrinks.
And how? We've got to find room for a chart table and navigating instruments and a little radio desk.
Radio? On a sailboat?
The radio's the most important thing on the boat, Betty. We need it to pick up time signals when we shoot the sun and to get radio bearings on our position and all sorts of things.
Yeah, and we've got a special generator on board just to make electricity for the radio and lights.
Your cabin's up forward, Betty. It's a bit small, but you'll be comfortable. And forward of that is the forecastle for a crew, if any.
We're the only crew. Uncle Jim, Jack, and I.
Well, Billy, do you think I'm a paying passenger?
You can bet you're not. You're the cook.
And will I have you at my mercy? What's that?
That must be Uncle Jim. Let's see what dope he got.
Hello, Uncle Jim. Here, throw me your painter and I'll make fast.
Thanks, Billy.
Okay, got it.
No more strange visitors, I hope.
Not this time, Uncle Jim. Did you find out anything?
Well, I've made arrangements for our supplies.
Oh, you're teasing us, Uncle Jim. You know that's not what Jack was talking about.
Oh, they've told you everything, I see.
You bet we did. Did you find out anything from the police?
No, Billy, neither the police nor the government agents. No one seems to know anything about the identity of our visitor. I looked over all of the photographs in their files, but whoever he is, he's not on their suspect list.
Oh, but there's something else you haven't told us, Uncle Jim. I can see it in your eyes. They were always laughing when you're hiding something.
Now, Betty, if you don't stop prying into my eyes, I'm going to have to wear blinders.
Oh, but, Uncle Jim, there is something else, isn't there?
Yes, there is. Look at this.
A slip for registered mail.
The token. The token from Professor Loring. Is that it, Uncle Jim?
It might be.
But of course it is. You don't expect any other registered package, do you?
No, Jack, I don't. This package was apparently sent by the Filipino skipper that rescued the sailor. I'm sure it's the token that Professor Loring wanted us to have.
Then why don't we go and get it?
Yeah, why don't we? Gee, Willikins. I want to see what it is that this gang is so anxious to get.
That's just why I didn't rush off to get it, Billy. This gang is so anxious to get their hands on it that I wouldn't be a bit surprised if they had their agents hanging around the main post office waiting for it to arrive.
I believe you're right, Uncle Jim. They'll stop at nothing. And they know us by sight, too. At least one of them does.
Exactly. If we got that package, they'd see us there, follow us, and we might have a bad time before we shook them off.
But how are you going to get it, Uncle Jim?
I figure they'll be looking for us at the main post office. So I've already telephoned the postmaster, and he's going to send it down to that little branch post office near these docks. We can get it there.
That's a good idea. This gang can't have their men planted at every branch office in the city. When will it be there?
Well, it ought to be there by this time. You and Billy can go ashore any time you wish and get it. Use the car I borrowed from the airport.
Come on, Billy. What are we waiting for?
I'm practically on my way already, Jack.
Oh, I'm coming too. If it's a ring, it must be just about a magic ring to make that gang go to so much trouble.
You'd better stay here, Betty. We've got a long list of ship supplies to go over, and since you're the cook...
Oh, but Uncle Jim, I do want to see what it is.
You'll see soon enough, Betty. Be a good soldier now and stay aboard and help me.
All right, Uncle Jim. But do hurry, Jack and Billy. I won't be a bit of use to Uncle Jim till you get back.
We'll hurry, Betty. We're just as anxious as you are to see what this is all about. Come on, Billy. Into the skiff.
Say, do you suppose that package really contains a mysterious ring which Professor Loring is sending to Uncle Jim? And why do you suppose that gang is so terrifically anxious to get hold of it? Do you think they'll be smart enough to be waiting for Jack and Billy at the small post office? If they do, there's sure to be an exciting time ahead for those two before they get back to the boat. So listen in, all of you, at the same time tomorrow and see what happens to Billy and to Jack Armstrong, the all-American boy. Now, I'm leaving the proposition squarely up to you. If it's a real champion athlete's breakfast you want, one that stops on plenty of football training tables this time of year, be sure to ask for Wheaties. A big bowl full of Wheaties with lots of milk and a glass of fruit juice. Any day and every day in the year, that's your breakfast of champions. Have you tried Wheaties? They're whole wheat with all of the bran. Won't you try? This is Franklin McCormick saying goodbye until tomorrow for General Mills, makers of Wheaties, breakfast of champions, who have just presented another episode of Jack Armstrong, the all-American boys. The best breakfast food in the land. Wave the flag for Hudson High, boys. Show them how we stand.
There you had it, old-time radio friends, episode 3 of Jack Armstrong, the all-American boy. And next week will be our last episode. And then after that, we'll go into some Superman episodes. So we'll want you to stay tuned each week. Reminding you, too, that later on tonight, on Old Time Radio, right after Station ID at the bottom of the hour, we're going to listen to Gene Autry's Melody Ranch program. But now, let's talk about radio remotes. Band remotes are almost as old as commercial radio. No one knows exactly who did the first one. Vincent Lopez is generally credited with giving the first radio concert by a name band, but since the orchestra was brought to the studio, it doesn't really qualify as a radio remote. By definition, a radio band remote was considered a musical program, usually lasting from 15 to 30 minutes, and broadcast over a station or a network, and almost always sustaining. Now that word sustaining in radio means public service announcements for U.S. savings bonds. The radio stations saw it as an inexpensive way to fill in the late night programming. The musicians weren't paid for performing. And the band saw it as an inexpensive way to achieve a vast amount of publicity and expose their latest arrangements and recordings. The listener heard it as a free and comfortable way of hearing some of the finest popular music America has yet produced. Very few remotes, or NEMOs, as they were sometimes called, were sponsored. An important exception was a series heard at one time. It was on 6 nights a week, and it was called Coca-Cola's Victory Parade of Spotlight Bands. It would take a company the size of Coca-Cola to afford the top name bands night after night and to avoid all the conflicts with competing products that the bands might associate themselves with other sponsored in-studio broadcasts. But for the most part, when you think of the past days of band remotes, you usually think of a non-sponsored, low-budget, late-night offering. A look through a typical page of radio program listings in the 1930s or 40s would show a heartbreaking lineup of band after band, station after station, hour after hour of great music. But in the 1950s, with the coming of the popular disc jockey and the financial realities of the television era, there were less and less and less. And some of these words are from the words of a fellow by the name of Michael Raffoni. And he, back in those old days, played a part in the radio band remotes. And now let's take a listen to a radio remote. This is Tommy Dorsey and his orchestra, a September 14th, 1939 broadcast, and it's from the roof of the Hotel Pennsylvania, New York City.
Well, once more we bring you, and once more is hardly enough, that sly old sentimental gentleman of swing. Tommy Dorsey, his trombone and orchestra, Edith Wright and Jack Leonard, playing from the sky-cool roof atop the Pennsylvania Hotel in little old New York City. An invitation to the dance from TD and all the little D's. Yes, sir. First number coming up, Miss Edith Wright, who plays teacher right now. A little number called All Those in Favor of Swing Say Aye. Tommy?
Buttons, buttons, we've got the buttons. Buttons for the swingaroos. Step up and do your part in the swingaroos meeting that's ready to start.
Ladies and gentlemen, as president of the Alpha Swingaroos,
everybody come get a button.
ladies and gentlemen, I'm here to hear about your swinging views.
Everybody's gotta have a button.
Do you like your music sweet? Do you want it with a ride? Let's strike a note, take a vote and decide. All those in favor of swing say aye.
Aye,
The ayes have it, all those in favor of the thing say aye.
aye.
Carried again, if you're a bug who likes to cut a rug and you go in for strutting, fall in line 'cause the water is fine. You're entitled to a swing button. All those in favor of the jive say aye.
Aye.
Well, start jiving. All those who think they can qualify say aye. Is it yes or is it nay? Come on, children, have your say. All those in favor of swing say aye.
Aye.
The ayes take it away. Well, now that you know what this meeting's all about, I'll ask you a question. When you answer, shout. Let's have Yank give his trumpet a try. All those in favor say aye. Okay, Yank, that's the right way to play. You'll get your button without delay. And now let's see if Johnny can qualify. All those in favor say aye. Solid, Johnny, you really fell in. Here's your button, complete with a pin. You're next, babe. See if you can get by. Will all those in favor say aye? Well, nice going, babe. That's the right way to play. You'll get your button right away. And now let's see if Tommy can qualify. Will all those in favor say aye? Well, all right, Tommy, here's a button for you. And now let's see what the Clambake 7 can do. All those in favor of swing say aye.
Aye.
Well, okay, let's swing. Is it yes or is it nay? Come on, children, have your say. All those in favor of swing say aye.
Aye. Aye. Aye.
Take it away.
Back in what we've come to call the golden age of radio, the major networks and many of the large stations had what was called a field department. The field engineers are now as extinct as radio sound effects departments. And these technicians would have regular assignments week after week in hotels and ballrooms and nightclubs to present the same bands that their listeners came to know and love. It wasn't easy to do a band remote. 3 people at least were needed: the engineer, the announcer, and the technician in the master control, who saw to it that the show went from the bandstand to the network or transmitter as it was supposed to. There was a lot more work involved in putting these shows on the air than would first meet the ear. The engineer had to first lug an unbelievable amount of microphones and amplifiers and mixers and headphones and cables to the bandstand. And if he didn't want to repeat that same moving job week after week, he made arrangements with the head waiter or the electrician to store some of the heavier equipment for next week's show. But no matter who got paid off, there still was a lot of heavy carrying to be done. Freezing in unheated dressing rooms and back bandstand cubby holes in the winter and stifling in cramped, sweaty nightclubs in summer. It certainly wasn't all glamour. And now let's get back. Let's get back to our radio remote from 1939 from the roof of the Hotel Pennsylvania, Tommy Dorsey and his orchestra.
Yes, sir. And now here's the latest in the Maurice cycle. You know, one of those novelty tunes with Jack Leonard and the entire gang? The latest one, Deep Night.
Stars in the sky above, moon.
You and the night and the music.
Lighting our place of love.
And sundown.
Night winds
crying.
Seem to have gone to
All
rest.
through the night.
Under
a blanket of blues.
Brightly with love
You
are
started
gleaming.
dreaming.
Come to my arms, my darling.
Darling.
My sweetheart.
Sweetheart.
My own.
Take all of me.
Vow that you love me always.
Forever.
And be
You'll
mine
find you rocked in the cradle
alone.
of the... Ain't you coming up? Let's get together.
Whispering trees
The lamp is
above.
low.
Kind
Be so easy to love, babe.
bringing you nearer, dearer and dearer, deep.
Say, don't you know tonight's the night?
Deep in the arms of
Comes
love.
love.
Yes, music by Tommy Dorsey and the orchestra. A September 14th, 1939 broadcast from the roof of the Hotel Pennsylvania in New York City. And now, my friends, our first half hour is just about over, and we will be returning in just a minute or so after Station ID with Gene Autry and a broadcast from June 9th, 1951.